Good evening, Devonport Camera Club. It's always a privilege to judge the work of others. I have the highest admiration and respect for all of you and your commitment to your photography. I am one of New Zealand's leading sports photographers, award-winning international, Olympic, FIFA, and Commonwealth Games photo manager. As a professional photographer, I approach your images from a perspective that reflects your club's ambitions and aspirations. I have always believed that it is far better to be straight, truthful and perhaps critical, rather than tactful, nice and polite. I admit this approach is not for the faint-hearted. I will always judge the image on what is presented, never on the level of the photographer, of which I have no idea. I will not mince my words, but I will always counter the negative with how the image can be improved with suggestions and advice that you may or may not take on board. Some may think this arrogant, but I can assure it is not. I give you the benefit of more than 30 years of professional photography, domestic and international awards, of books printed, of images sold and not sold, of mistakes made, and lessons learned. For you it does not come cheaply. There is a cost to you. Perhaps a little chagrin, a little reality check, and a recognition that there is work to be done. Because in photography there are no shortcuts to perfection. The positive of course is that those who gain an acceptance or higher will have absolutely earned it, and if credit is due, I will be profuse in my admiration for the image displayed. I will finish with a thank you, and a hope that any criticism is taken as it is given, in good heart with a view to assisting you in expanding your photography skills and enjoyment. Best regards, Kevin Clark. After the rain. Judy Dawkins. I found this image to be a bit messy, and my eye roamed around the flowers a little too much trying to find somewhere to settle. Perhaps less is more and one or two flowers would have worked better in this instance. Zooming in on those would have eliminated a great deal of the background clutter here. Simplify the image as much as possible. Ask yourself what you need to tell the story. 1 point. Not accepted. Asian lady in her rice field. Mike Jones. While I like the idea in having a lady in her environment, I find that the overt clarifying on the lady a bit too drastic, giving the whole image a very unnatural feel completely contrary to the setting. I'm not sure what it is it from editing? Or is it a distraction in the background at the edge of the field? It is enough to make me wander from the portrait. 1 point. Not accepted. Blyde River Canyon, South Africa. Mike Jones. Adding clarity to an image definitely can enhance its appearance. However, it is also true that too heavy a use of the same tool can detract and make it just too unnatural. This is a stunning location, and it really deserved a more natural edit to bring its beauty out. I would also suggest doing some lens correction, as there appears to be a fair amount of distortion in the image. 1 point. Not accepted. Close to the barrel. Leanne Cowan. Rodeo looks simple and straightforward. However, to get the best images you have to continuously change your camera settings. Focus points, shutter speed, aperture, all of these change from shot to shot. The barrel is in focus but the rider and the horse are not. The head of the horse is too soft and the chest is sharp. The rider is too soft. Your focus points should always be on the rider first and foremost, with a high shutter speed and as closed an aperture as you can afford. Your ISO can sit on auto, and as long as you are keeping it below 4000, you will be fine. If it's not, then don't take the shot. As an aside, I spent 3 years as NZ Rodeo's South Island photographer, and it is tough. 1 point. Not accepted. Contemplating. Julie Phillips. Portraits work best when the viewer has eye contact, unless it's an environmental portrait. There is nothing here, and it seems contrived. I did feel that this a tad too sharpened too. 1 point, not accepted. Desert tree. Baden Smith. Trees in the desert can be very dramatic. All that empty space and solitude, sitting alone on the horizon, shimmering in the heat. This has none of that, sorry. It sits too high to be dramatic in this instance. It's much better to get an image from lower down so the tree sits above the landscape, even if it means you have to lie down on the ground. 1 point, not accepted. Flame robin. Stephen Matthews. The subject is too small, and its chest is oversaturated. There are too many distractions in the image that draw your eye away from the subject. 1 point, not accepted. One Gothic Saxon afternoon. David Ludorn. Gothic or not, this simply doesn't work for me. I find the sky is way too heavy, and the color and editing on the buildings is just too harsh. It jars completely. It's a no from me. 1 point, not accepted. Oystercatcher. David Hunter. I would have liked you to have cropped in more on the bird here. As the main subject, it really needs to take up at least half of the available space, unless the background is a single color or empty. 1 point, not accepted. Proud Mum. Daryl Starkey. Take time to frame your image and think about the composition more. People take pictures, photographers create images. Don't leave half a duck in the shot. Try and get everything in focus too, or at least the things that are important to the story. The duck is also heading out of the image, and your eye tends to follow that movement. 1 point, not accepted. Skull Rock Falls. Gil Hayes. The first rule of landscape is that the horizon needs to be level, even perceived horizons. This image is off-center and leaning off to the left, which if it is intentional, has not worked. This is a shame, as you've captured the water of the cascade perfectly. 1 point, not accepted. Still standing. Julie Phillips. A great image is more than the sum of its parts. A good image has a sense of balance, a sense of a story, and a link that the viewer can easily identify to lead them into the shot. All I see here is a chimney, and I am at a loss to get anything out of this. 1 point, not accepted. That tree again. Sunset. And Starkey. That tree. The Wanaka tree has been photographed so much that any image has to be nigh on perfect and amazing. This has a cast that is far too warm and yellow. It's unnatural, and even though I know the sunset and sunrise in Wanaka are pretty cool, they simply aren't this warm. Changes to the image color need to be subtle, so the viewer may guess that it's been worked on, but he won't be sure. 1 point, not accepted. Touch of yellow. Gil Hayes. It's a record shot of a yellow boat, but it does nothing. No interaction with the viewer, no creative input, nor planning thought has gone into capturing this. Grab shots aren't memorable on most days. 1 point, not accepted. A good day's work. Jenny King. A good image that fits the title well. I would have liked the author to have filled the frame with a story rather more than they have. However, the technical aspects are well done here, with almost perfect color and nice and it's sharp. 3 points, acceptance. Catching the wave. Jenny King. Well captured, well exposed, and sharp as a tack. Not the most exciting surfing shot we will ever see, but as environmental portraiture it works well. The subject would be very happy with this. 3 points, acceptance. Flame in the rain. Brad Stagg. Well captured, well exposed and sharp. A good record shot of this bird. I do want to cry out my mantra for Camera Club images: make the frame fit the image, not the image fit a frame. The whole right side of this image is superfluous, and because it's lighter it is a distraction. Crop in, and get rid of everything not needed to tell your story. 3 points, acceptance. Greenpoint Beach. Margaret Sobolewski. A lovely view and well captured. My only suggestion I have here is ask yourself if you really need the branch. I don't think you do. Also, if it's about the isolation, then let the tide wash away all those footprints or edit them out. They distract from the overall feeling of peacefulness. 3 points, acceptance. Hanging out for a drink. Brad Stagg. Very clever, very nice. A good shot. Well done. 3 points, acceptance. Has 106 died? Tony Sobolewski. I love these old letterbox postal sets, and I am disappointed that you didn't move your feet 4 steps to the left so it was more symmetrical, which would really make this shot stand out. Symmetry rules here, and it's screaming out to be just that, symmetrical and repeating again and again, line by line and row by row. 3 points, acceptance. Milky Way. Squeaking Point. Tony Sobolewski. A fair attempt at a night photography shot. Never an easy shot. I did like that you've tried to do this in one shot, rather than photo stacking the image together. 3 points, acceptance. Montague Beach. Margaret Sobolewski. I really like the patterns on the rocks in the foreground, so much so that everything else in the shot is a distraction. They are so strong and colorful here, that this should be your focus, which I am sure it is. So get rid of everything else that isn't required. All that sky, all that background. Be brutal and cull everything that isn't needed to tell the story. Fill the frame with the story you tell. Do that and I might have given you a higher score. 3 points, acceptance. Old Pier, Bridport, Tasmania. Daryl Starkey. I enjoyed the contradiction between the strength of the rocks and the fragility of the old timber piles heading out to sea. It's all anchored in place by the whiff of tidal movement in the foreground. I am uncertain about the level of shadow highlighting adjustment in the sky and the darker areas. It would be better to be more subtle with this editing style. Otherwise it works well. 3 points, acceptance. Pink Steampunk. Leanne Cowan. This is a well-exposed image, but there could be so much more with some judicial cropping and getting closer to your subject. This would make it far more interesting and get rid of the annoying background too, which would score it higher. 3 points, acceptance. Rudy Turnstone. David Hunter. Well captured, but again the framing doesn't fit the image. There is a lovely natural framing set of rocks and pebbles around the bird that will give you a more intimate shot. Make the frame fit the image and not the other way around. With that framing, this would have been a highly commended. 3 points, acceptance. Undercurrent. Condominium Creek. David Ludorn. This one got my attention, and made me think hard to decide if it was underwater or not. Yes, I know the title says so, but I don't look at the title until after I look at the image. I try to understand what the photographer is portraying with their work. I like it. Good movement, nice lighting, well balanced. It works. 3 points, acceptance. Aurora. Rob Dawkins. Very beautiful and simple. The author has captured the aurora colors and lighting perfectly. Very well done. I did wonder about the boat. Was it inserted? Was it not? But it's been done so well, if it was, that it doesn't matter. 4 points, highly commended. Light painting. Stephen Matthews. Very well done, with obviously the patience of a saint. If I may make a recommendation and suggestion. To really make the light sculptures stand out, take a background shot to begin with that is darker and less grainy, and build this into your lighting layers. It will remove the dirty half-dark look it currently has. But that's being a tad picky, to be honest. Well done. Oh, and also, this is another example of making the image fit the frame rather than the other way around. The sky above the cabin is a light distraction, crop it out. 4 points, highly commended. Night lights. Judy Dawkins. This is such a simple image, and yet it is so eloquent. It is perfectly balanced and the exposure is bang on. It's just a bridge, I can hear some say, but it definitely works as an image, and there is enough interest inside the frame to keep you captured. Very well done. 4 points, highly commended. Reflections. Easter Story. And Starkey. Lovely lighting and a great angle on a subject that we see millions of shots of. I like that you've gone out of your way to capture a different angle here. It's got a good balance of subtle lighting adding to the romance of the shot. Very well done. 4 points, highly commended. Wedge-tailed eagle. Rob Dawkins. Beautiful. Fierce. Focused. Superbly detailed and perfect. It's a great shot which I hope you captured in the middle of nowhere, and not at Wild Wings, or somewhere similar. Please tell me that it's a wild bird. Very, very good. 6 points, merit. Abandon. David Hunter. A good concept, but rather flat in the production. There are areas of the sky where the detail is completely missing. I'd suggest it may help to do 2 shots, one exposed for the sky, one for the building, and blend these together. Sometimes it's simply not possible to capture in the camera what our eye can see. 1 point, not accepted. African elephant. Mike Jones. A nice shot of an elephant, but I feel that this is over-clarified in post-production. The texture of an elephant's rough skin will stand out well enough without doing this if it is exposed correctly. 1 point, not accepted. Desert repairs. Baden Smith. A normal record shot. Nothing major to hold the attention, no eye contact. Move your feet, get around the front, get down on your knees and get right into the scene, and then it would be attention-grabbing. As it is, I'm afraid not. 1 point, not accepted. Goth couple. Leanne Cowan. Taking shots of strangers isn't easy for most people. It's safer to hide behind the camera, grab a quick snap and move on. I think this couple deserve better. I'm sure, from personal experience, that if you'd asked them they would have posed for you, giving you a far better image, with less distraction, better eye contact, and making more of the moment than the photographer has here. 1 point, not accepted. It's closed. Margaret Sobolewski. Yes, it is. I'm not entirely sure what the subject is here, as the eye wanders around the shot trying to find a strong anchor, but there isn't one. Too much going on, so I'd suggest finding a simpler shot, or focusing in on the story you are trying to get over to your audience. Sometimes the story just isn't there. 1 point, not accepted. Oldie, but a goodie. Daryl Starkey. A good idea as a subject, but the image needs more refinement. Perhaps a close approach, and a different angle to make it stronger. The reflection in the chrome is a big distraction. Your depth of field is great, as is the sharpness too. So technically a good image, but is that enough? I don't think in this instance it is. 1 point, not accepted. Steps Bakehouse. Judy Dawkins. I have mentioned previously about the need for contrast and texture in mono images. This, though a lovely old character building, is lacking in both. A darkening of those bright roof areas and more texture in the walls and stones would definitely enhance the image. It is just too flat. Yet there is overt drama in the sky, so much so that this detracts from the subject itself. Rule of thumb should be to focus attention and detail on the subject, lavish it with all the editing and care it requires, do a minimum to the rest. It is after all only the background. 1 point, not accepted. Towers of Glass and Ivory. David Ludorn. The Thames around Tower Bridge is chock full of stunning architecture and interest. It's a haven for good photography. I felt that this image and the post-production style did not do the scene justice. The river is too dark. The building shadows blend away into blackness with little or no detail in them. I would suggest the scene doesn't need all of that, and maybe reassess the original image using a more subtle contrast effect. 1 point, not accepted. Tune up. Baden Smith. Removing background from someone with curly hair is a difficult job, and time-consuming, but it is possible. Not this time though, as it's fairly obvious from the aura of color around the head of your subject. Again, I'd suggest that the image is over-edited, to the point that it looks unnatural and overbright. Clarity, texture and sharpening in post-production are a distant second to actually thinking about the shot, and getting it right in camera wherever possible. 1 point, not accepted. Beautiful Sparrow. Julie Phillips. Now, there are two words you don't often hear together. A chubby sparrow too. Good exposure and not overworked, with enough detail in the background. 3 points, acceptance. Don River Railway. Rob Dawkins. A beautiful shot of this old steam train. Perhaps I am old-fashioned and traditional, but I do feel that we have so many images that are overworked. There is a tendency to push the clarity to sharpen an image or give it more oomph, but there are far better, more subtle ways to do this, that aren't to the detriment of the image's appeal. 3 points, acceptance. On the run. Jenny King. This works. Well exposed, sharp without being too sharp, shiny sweat on the horse's neck. A good capture. As a suggestion, to make it a stronger image, tighten the framing and lose all the negative space above the horse. Perhaps a squarer format would give you a very strong black and white contrast, emphasizing the curve of the neck. Again, a good shot. 3 points, acceptance. Pooncarie Darling in Flood and Starkey. Contrast and patterns are the backbone of monophotography, especially when it comes to landscapes. The light here should be much stronger to bring those linear patterns in the water out in front of the viewer's perspective. Here this is all a little too flat. When shooting this type of image, change your metering to spot metering and underexpose half a stop or so to increase the shadow areas without losing detail in the light. Do this, and the image moves up to at least highly committed for me. 3 points, acceptance. Steam tractor. Stephen Matthews. It's an interesting subject which fills the frame well. There are many points of interest to keep the viewer occupied. The fact that I could not see the person under the canopy did worry me. I believe a lightening of that shadow would enhance the image. It did also seem a tad soft, as if it had been enlarged or cropped in too closely, but this may well be the digital file itself. 3 points, acceptance. The Bridge. Tony Sobolewski. Such a simple image and yet so effective. Good clean lines leading into the shot, a beautiful curving out containing the eye within its grasp. There are details that could be edited out, such as the buildings to the left and right, and a little straightening of the horizon too. This simply works and has contrast, shape and texture. Well done. 4 points, highly commended. The Hinge. Gil Hayes. Texture. Contrast. Strong diagonals. Simplicity. Complexity. Nothing fancy required. A simple story perfectly told. Possibly a tad too much clarity and brightness, as all things soften with age, but other than that, this simply works well. Excellent. 6 points, merit.